Nobody makes movies like Michael Mann. Nobody. We are 9 months out from shooting this film. Director Michael Mann is on emergency calls with Officer Tom Elfmont every Friday and Saturday night. Mann saw every strange, enigmatic, vivacious spot in Los Angeles. He is putting together a cat and mouse heist thriller to shoot LA like no one ever had. As it exists. Warts and all. Heat is a masterpiece that towers over the pantheon of 1990s crime cinema. People reserve the word auteur for works like this one, written, produced, and directed by Mann over many years. A patina formed over its gruff exterior over time, built into the crevices of a town constantly evolving on top of itself. Broken people shattering everyone around them. Two men who are essentially two sides of the same man who view each other's opposing views from the railroad track. A movie that jams failed love stories wherever it can, but to no avail. These men cannot be satiated by anyone other than each other. Can you be such a narcissist that you fall in love with your mortal enemy? A Shakespearean drama that can only ever go one way. These two men burn the world down to endure the loneliness. But alas, there was no more world to burn. The story of Heat, easily one of the finest films ever made, and is probably not the story you think it is. So buckle up. In 1979, this story starts early. Michael Mann wrote a 180-page draft of a screenplay about a bank heist. Around this time, he directs his feature debut, Thief, and makes the decision to go back to his original screenplay. NBC is looking for a new serialized television show in the early 80s, and Mann cuts the screenplay down into a television pilot. He essentially cut it in half. It is, however, not picked up by the studio as a show, so they rebranded as LA Takedown and aired as a TV movie all the way back in 1989. It gets somewhat mixed reviews and disappears. You can watch it on YouTube, and I highly recommend doing so right after you watch the movie Heat. It's like the Twilight Zone. Bring friends and pizza. Timing and execution is everything. LA Takedown is kind of the ultimate test run for a heist. The visuals present here show you how the action sequences from Heat were gestating in Mann's brain. Michael Mann, now a pretty major force in Hollywood, goes back to the drawing board and looks for inspiration. It is on his ride-alongs with Officer Tom Elfmont that 1. He gets a sense for the vibrant nature of the city, and 2. Sees the whole experience through the lens of 1. Neil McCauley. No, not that one. This guy right here. You see, Neil was a career criminal that police officer Charlie Adamson, a career Chicago cop, had a deadly relationship with. Michael Mann's friends with a lot of cops. Adamson develops such a friendship with Mann that Adamson becomes a writer on Miami Vice, and he works with Michael Mann into the future. The story goes like this. Adamson and McCauley met for a coffee once, fully coming to an understanding that while respect existed between them, duty would overcome those feelings and one was going to kill the other. This is eventuality, but we can be honest. They finished their coffees. This was the most chill death pact ever concocted. Two unstoppable trains, destined to collide, take a moment for a cup of joe. I'm not sure Michael Mann ever stopped thinking about that sit-down back in the 1960s or Neil McCauley at all. Honesty in the crime genre can be a difficult find. He's certainly made a masterpiece to commemorate their nihilistic disregard for collateral humanity. And that premise results in one of the greatest acting clinics in film history, but we'll get to that in a moment. A toxic duality these two men are. They're more Batman and the Joker than anything, honestly. But which is which? Two men powerless to do anything but collide, absorbed by the gravity of their martyrdom. So the thing at the center of this movie is emotionally and also historically true. Neil McCauley sat down with a cop and they both promised they'd kill the other when pushed to it.
If it's between you and some poor bastard whose wife you're gonna turn into a widow, brother, you are going down.
Before we get ahead of ourselves, here is a quick rundown of the 5 acts of Shakespeare death. Hell, these two rain down on every human around them over the course of our film. Neil McCauley just wants to do the crimes by the book. We meet him and his crew as they take down an armored vehicle. But it's the new guy, Waingro, that goes off book and kills one of the security guards. McCauley is about to kill Waingro, but the slippery little punk escapes. This is super important as it will define Neil's entire arc. We then meet our eternal train wreck, Vincent Hanna, investigating this robbery and murder scene. He is currently ruining another marriage, third, by only being married to his job. We then run through the cat and mouse game again as our boys try to steal a bunch of precious metals. They feel the heat once again and abort the mission because Hannah is getting close. They zero in on a bank heist, a brazen one, worth enough money to stop this runaround altogether. But the cat catches the mouse for a second, so our two main gravitational narrative bodies sit down for a cup of coffee. A real keep your hands on the table kind of moment, but these two size each other up. They also agree that neither is going to give up their way of living. When they eventually collide, it is what it is. And then Neil and our main mice walk right into a bank minutes from E3, rest in peace. Hannah is steps behind him, enough to cause a catastrophic calamity in the heart of downtown. A Laker might have been shot. Kind of the worst scenario, honestly, and both sides experience substantial losses during this all-out war on the streets of downtown. Trejo, yeah, that's his name in this movie. Trejo is hunted down by our main guy Neil, though he finds out that he's not actually the guy he's looking for, and as a courtesy, kills him anyway. Vincent goes through a whole host of demonetization words with his stepdaughter, and it's terrible. His wife finally comes to the realization that their marriage is never going to work. McCauley and Edie, his almost girlfriend, get away with all of it and are trying to fly to New Zealand, but wouldn't you know it, Neil chooses revenge over love and heads towards Waingro instead of escaping with the woman whose life he ruined. He kills Waingro, leaves Edie when he realizes it's about to go down. Vincent Hanna catches up with Neil McCauley on the outskirts of LAX, and he puts him down. The end. Emotionally, this movie untangles that very clear through line. It's the core of the original LA Takedown as well. The beauty of Heat is the tapestry that man creates around and pumping through our central premise. There's a million tiny stories in this movie heading to a tragic and inevitable conclusion. The plan was simple. Two locomotives rushing right at each other. A glorious tapestry of toxicity and death.
Please do not get in my way. You cannot drive in my lane. Tires is burning the paint. You don't have nothing to say. This is how legends are made. I know I got what it takes. And I'm not pumping the brakes. And I'm not pumping the brakes. I'm too competitive. I like the narrative. I don't know best in the league. Who you comparing with? That isn't competitive. Top of the throne, it is me. How you moving slow on the speed? I just been bringing the heat. I just been bringing.
Don't let yourself get attached to anything you are not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner.
Heat is an all-time titan of cinema. But I wanted to make something clear here. The majesty of this film is in its ensemble, is in its music, the cinematography, the unhinged size of our main cast, all reaching for the gold, all living in their own story before it all collapses onto itself. Everyone involved in this movie is doing career best work. It all sings harmoniously with man's chaotic vision of Los Angeles that I will extrapolate how almost none of this is ever going to happen again. No one is ever going to do this again, literally. First, we're going to start with why everyone is here in the first place. We reach the peak as our chaos gremlins rob a bank, fully armed, in downtown LA. The shootout bank robbery is something that will never be replicated in cinema. I can't believe this scene exists in any country's cinema. So 1100 character threads come to a head in our large central bank heist. The job the team does not pull off because they are a leaky sieve of an organization at this point. It goes so belly up that they get into a massive fully automatic shootout with the police in the downtown 5th Street. This whole sequence is a cacophonous beast of filmmaking. When they were assembling this scene, the first pass had sound effects for the gunfire. If you're curious, the magic of movies is this is fine, it's just not. Man hears some of this preliminary work and is confused. A bit of extremely important, but did you know here? Every single take of this, they are firing some 1,000 to 1,100 live fire blanks. In downtown Los Angeles, an unbreakable requirement of this film is they're only allowed to shoot on the weekends so as not to disturb the downtown area with gunfire. Anyway, they end up shooting 3 entire weekends in a row, just right there on 5th Street. The sound from this gunfire was a roar like nothing any of them had ever heard before. Every blank fired bounces the sound off the windows all around you. So when man heard that much more traditional soundscape here, it wasn't this one-of-a-kind nightmare. The bank heist is just one of the wild experiments in this movie that is 100 times the sum of its parts. Music. Man has always loved to experiment with music and soundscapes in films. The easiest way to explain this is to say, man is the Miami Vice guy, and I can say with no hesitation that the way he uses music in film is highly influential to myself. Okay, so famous film composer Elliot Gouldenthal, hot off the success of composing Batman Forever, I'm serious. He takes a meeting with Michael Mann, who he has never worked with. Elliot's biggest breaks up to this point are Alien 3, Interview with the Vampire, and Demolition Man. And Elliot just invents heist cinema sound. To call this soundtrack influential to the genre is kind of an understatement. The soundtrack is the bedrock for modern cops and robbers cinema. Goldenthal's score is a clairvoyant glimpse into the future of cinema. The music is the thread that holds the tapestry together. So let's move on to visuals. Cinematography. The cinematography in this film is so all-time. The DP on this movie, Dante Spinati, just shot The Alto Nights. He's still solving incredibly complex problems in subtle ways with De Niro. So you're aware, Dante shot Last of the Mohicans with Michael Mann right before this film. He is a legend of cinema, and his work here to discover the real LA is striking in its power. A city teeming with energy, unsure of the future. Everyone is having trouble getting by, and the thin criminal line between the cops and the robbers in LA is negligible. Hannah would be the bad guy in this movie, the detective snorting nose dust, if not for a group of bank robbers that get loads of other people killed. Performances. This movie needed a never-before-seen collection of actors diving into who their characters are. The performances in this movie are the bedrock of, let's be honest, a story about people destroying each other and the lives around them. But let's unbury this thread. The film stars Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Val Kilmer, John Voight with career best hair, Tom Sizemore, Amy Brenneman, Ashley Judd, Wes Studi, Ted Levine,
aka who puts the lotion in the basket,
Dennis Haysbert, William Fichtner, Natalie Portman, Hank Azaria, Danny Trejo, Tone Luke. Look, the point here is that this movie isn't just the career best from Robert and Al, it's across the board. Lots of movies can claim to have once-in-a-lifetime combination of star power on screen. Not a lot can claim what this one does. If you're a working actor still trying to find nuances to add to the characters in the works, look no further. You have consistent performances that breathe and fit together to illustrate this glorious tapestry. The editing and the cinematography brings you into the performances by letting the actors illustrate the places of the character they saw in the material. Sometimes the director gets a little out of the way and, to quote Gen Z here, to let them cook. And cook they did.
great ass!
This entire textile is constructed to hold up to the toxic bromance at the center of this movie. An action and heist movie for the ages, beautifully woven around our two central performances. So let's drill down on that.
I'm too competitive, I like the narrative, that I'm best in the league. Who you comparing with, that isn't fetid, top of the throne, it is me. How you moving slow on the speed? I just been bringing the heat.
You don't live with me. You live among the remains of dead people.
You know, I have this recurring dream. I'm sitting at this big banquet table, and all the victims of all the murders I ever worked are sitting at this table, and they're staring at me with these black eyeballs.
Could not have said it better myself. Neil and Hannah, our bullet-crossed lovers, created destiny for themselves at the naive expense of everyone around them. They told you who they were. They are cosmically entwined. Both men are given repeated chances to not fall victim to their hubris. Like, Neil gets away with it. It's over. He can drive off into the sunset with a lady, but the problem is, he only cares about himself. A true sociopath, toxic sludge lacking anything resembling empathy. And this is not a trait he shares alone. Hannah spends every waking moment gaslighting his wife and by proxy, his stepdaughter. Something that has extremely serious consequences. A criminal who won't stop doing crimes. Let me paint this another way. Why does Hannah treat Neil with more respect than he does anyone else in his life?
You know, I have this recurring dream. I'm sitting at this big banquet table, and all the victims of all the murders...
It's the cocaine! Actually, let's stick with that for a second. Al Pacino has always told this story about how his character chips cocaine.
The character I played is a guy. He's been around. He's done a lot of stuff, and he also chips cocaine.
This just means he does a little at a time. Keeps him sharp. Keep him on the brink of 1990s hard-edge cops with interpersonal issues. Hooah! Outside of the obvious, which is the detective using illegal narcotics to achieve their results, is kind of hypocritical. I'm standing up and canceling Vincent Hanna because he uses performance-enhancing drugs. Hashtag justice for Neil. Well, I think it's interesting to examine how Neil and Vincent are polar opposites and somehow identical. Emotionally, they're the same stunted man-child who doesn't understand not to take their work home with them. Work loosely, even when it's organized crime. Neither can focus on anything else. This blind spot has consequences that truly never stop slamming into the wall. Vincent needs everybody in the room to know that he's in charge, really smart, and is definitely a little loose with the rules. Neil sees every horrible place in the city. He dies at LAX. Truly, he's in hell. Neil is a criminal that is so by the book and risk averse that the perfect cocaine-fueled detective who cares about literally nothing else but catching his criminal is the truest foil. Though Hannah doesn't catch anyone, he just kills them all. Vincent shoots and mortally wounds Neil at the climax of their friendship. They just hold hands for the rest of Neil's life. Let me just think back to all the hands Neil was holding in this movie. I love you, but my sense of duty is so great that I will nullify any momentary rush of joy from closing a case. And on the flip side of this toxic entwinement is Neil Macaulay, a man who understands that he could be happy and fulfilled if he got out of his own way every once in a while. Neil Macaulay is a mouse. He hates the shit out of cats. He is addicted to being the best at the game, screwing with cats. Neil is going to live his life how he wants, which means being crippled by the anxiety of the crimes he is constantly doing that makes him live a life with no attachment. You have 30 seconds to decide if it is time to live an entirely new life from this point forward. 30 seconds. Every decision he makes is the decision made within the confines of...
Allow nothing to be in your life that you cannot walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you spot the heat around the corner.
He is always saying this, and two things here are important. One, Neil makes the decision to leave his kind of girlfriend in 30 seconds. This is really cool filmmaking. He sticks to the code here. But more importantly, two, he still dies. This rule was irrelevant. You can't outsmart Cocaine Brian. He's Cocaine Brian. Neil had already gotten away with it. Quite a few bodies in his wake floating dead-eyed on the surface of the water. They are on the highway to freedom, and he just cannot. He can't. We did it. I can't believe the series of impossible escapes we have accomplished. Time to quit while we're ahead. Oh, I gotta grudge my grudge out though. Dead. A noxious sludge of anti-heroes. No one grows from this experience, but they manage to shrink everyone around them. An observation. I know you have to drink and do coke and shout at your wife. It's the job, baby. Here's an interesting way to think about how movies are made and using themes in literal ways in reference to the material. One of the tensest moments in this movie, and probably cinema, is the scene where Vincent manages to pull Neil over. He kind of forces him into having a coffee with him. It's a movie full of shootouts and heists gone rogue. We sit down for a cup of coffee. What follows is a clinic on acting that both De Niro and Pacino were super excited to do. This scene was shot with two cameras simultaneously, one over each shoulder. And they shot a bunch of wide coverage and two shots, and they put all this together while assembling this scene, but absolutely none of it got into the edit. There's a mystique to this scene, probably the most subtle, but extremely telling, reaction ever put to celluloid. The continuity per shot in this scene, edit to edit, is the best you'll ever see because you are often seeing both sides of the same performance. I'm about to feel so smart for setting this all the way up. If you go back to the scene of Al Pacino yelling at Hank Azaria, "Great ass!" Al was trying some stuff. When Al goes full off with the "Great ass!" shenanigans, a completely shocked Hank Azaria doesn't know what to do. This is an earnest reaction. Michael Mann loves the curveball to gain the unexpected performance. The diner scene is basically one cut up take, and if you're wondering, it's take 11. De Niro and Pacino wanted these tiny movements to be perceived and reacted to by the other actor. A cup of coffee where either could die and everyone has to pretend it's fine. A quick cup of joe to say, I appreciate you, I look up to you, and brother, I am putting you down. Hannah and Macaulay, a toxic duality that could only ever go one way. It almost doesn't matter who wins at the end of this, the city scarred by the ferocity of their addictions. Something built into the fabric of this film. We are the best at what we do, but find it entirely impossible to turn it off. They're both criminals that could have been happy. Heat. Heat is a movie about various men living a lie. The pursuit of that which they cannot attain. They think money will make it better, but the reality is that the pit in the recesses of their soul can never be filled. It's a cautionary tale for everyone in the movie. They can all feel the heat, and maybe the heat is the fire under their feet. This movie came out barely half a year after the Oklahoma City bombing. We were in a strange place, and I'm not sure we ever truly left that feeling. Police movies, crime movies, they're kind of hard to talk about, especially the further into the future we get. The optics evolve over time, and the robbers in this movie, on purpose, are often a little easier to root for than the detectives chasing them. The reality at the center of this is our main rockstar detective is absolutely no better than the criminals he chases. Worse in relationships, worse on his body, worse on his mental health, and deep down, Hannah already believes he should be alone because their love is unrequited. On the flip side of the coin, nobody wants to die at LAX. I buried the lead of this. No one wants to die here. Hannah ensures that their relationship will end in a gunfight. A blast of light could have come into the field differently. It was only ever going to end one way, with all of our main characters killing each other. I think making this film in 1995, it really had to end with the police winning so people know not to rob banks, which is the thing they did anyway. Heat stands above its message, like any masterpiece does. It makes crime look really freaking cool. It's kind of funny to look back at the filmography of Michael Mann. Cops and robbers are kind of equally cool. Music has always been central to this whole oeuvre. He's a director built differently. He loves to live in the grime and pump synths into the room. No one is Michael Mann. No one. Heat is an all-timer that you can unwrap the entire world of filmmaking with. No one had ever made a movie like this, and no one ever will again. Except for, man, when he adapts his and Meg Gardner's absolutely incredible Heat 2 novel. Okay, so there's a Heat. Perhaps it would be easier to think of these two men as whirlpools, eternally locked in a struggle to absorb the other. The Heat is Neil Macaulay and Vincent Hanna. They create it together. To know them is to know what it is to be burned. We know this because everyone around them gets burned. Nobody makes movies like Michael Mann. By all accounts, a cautionary tale about letting your work take over your life. A world just under the surface of our own world of toxic ghouls that look so damn cool as they smolder across Los Angeles with the top down. The heat is on. Hey, Hey, it's your boy Film Michael at it again with another video. So I would like to ask for your sincere support in helping FilmJoy continue to move into the future. You can do that in one of two ways. You can support us directly on Patreon at patreon.com/movieswithmikey. There's a Discord. We also have a store which we run ourselves, and sometimes we drive across the country to pick up shirts. We care about making good products, so with pins and shirts and water bottles, please support the channel so we can continue doing this into the future. You are loved. I love my turkey more, but I love you second most to that turkey.